If Clerk Segrist could call the roll.
Trustee Anthony is not present. Trustee Foster.
Good evening.
Trustee Graham-Hudek.
Good evening.
Let the record reflect that Clerk Segrist is in attendance. Treasurer Slavens.
Good evening.
Trustee Snyderman.
I'm here tonight.
And Supervisor Williams.
Good evening. Call for adoption of the agenda as presented with one minor change, and that would be to add CO to the consent calendar, which is a resolution that was read this evening in private to Officer Ken Robinson due to the passing of our K-9 officer, Thor.
So moved.
Those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We have two sets of minutes that we'll call for a motion to approve.
So moved.
So moved.
Support.
Those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now would be the time in our agenda for citizens' non-agenda item comments. If you're here to discuss anything that's not on the agenda, now would be the time. And George, how about we start with you? Okay, very good. Ma'am, go ahead, please. You can come up first, and then what we ask is you state your name and address. We'd like you to, and then limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Okay. Should I talk into this? My name is Roxana Galami. My address is 43440 Lipka Court, Canton, Michigan. And I'm here tonight because I'm interested in amending Canton's residential ordinances to allow for the keeping and care of backyard chickens. This is something that I'm passionate about because raising my own chickens would allow me to continue my journey to reducing my footprint by growing my own food and being less dependent on factory farmed foods. This is a growing movement towards there is a growing movement towards sustainability, and chickens are a huge part of that. It is not considered a rural thing anymore. Excuse me. Keeping chickens is modern and progressive, and we want Canton to be an attractive place to live for people who value sustainability and self-reliance. This is not a unique request. We look at some of the neighboring cities like Ann Arbor, Ferndale, Berkeley. They do all have ordinances in place for keeping backyard chickens. And they have the ordinances in place to reasonably balance sustainability in their communities at the same time preserving the standards of residentially zoned areas. Some examples of the neighboring townships' rules that they've put in place to strike this balance include limiting the number of chickens that can be kept, cleanliness standards, prohibiting the slaughter of chickens, and so forth. I do also want to add that a poll was placed on Canton's Township and Community Discussion page on Facebook, asking people if they would be in favor of chickens or not. 55 people responded no, 158 people responded yes, and there were 46 undecideds. So with that, I would just like to close by saying that the majority of subdivisions within Canton do have homeowners associations in place. So if the ordinance is passed at the township level to allow chickens, then every neighborhood would have the opportunity to decide for itself if they want to have chickens within their neighborhood or community, as it were. So with that, I did want to ask one question. I'm not sure if this is kosher or not because it's my first meeting, but I was just wondering if I could get a feel for where you guys stand on the issue. So would it be okay if you guys, excuse me, I get nervous. Would it be okay if you guys just said yes or no to your personal gut reaction to?
This is really not the forum to do that.
Not the
but
forum.
What
Okay,
I
that's
suggest you
fine.
do is just send a simple email.
Okay,
I think I expressed my opinion. I don't know if Clerk Segrist did.
that's perfectly all right.
And then if you get a consensus feel from the board, then send me a note back.
Okay.
And then I'll ask legal to take a look at it.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Good evening. Sir, would you like to make public comment? Because we're at that point in the meeting right now. If you'd like to make public comment, and we only ask two things, that is if you give us your name and address, and then try to limit your comments to 3 minutes if you could. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Andrew Richmond, Canton resident. You said address?
Please.
46477 Swanmere Drive. I'm here asking about the tree ordinance and the fight that's going on with it. And since you said keep it short, I'll save my whole story. How much money is being set aside and/or used in a battle to get $470,000 that I don't feel Canton Township or even any other township in this state has built on any mechanism of law? No one has, the reason I say it that way, sir, or panel people, is because I went to both meetings in Lansing, and I heard all the arborists come in and talk about how beautiful the trees were, how valuable they were, how they had $7,000 each mature tree to the value of property, which I thought was total crap. But no one spoke about why it was legal to have a tree ordinance that seems to take ownership of the property that belongs to someone else. So my question is, how much of our money is this panel and this community spending on that fight?
Because it is currently a legal matter that's under review. What I want to say is, I'm not going to go into that level of detail with anybody in the public, but if you'd like to come in and have a conversation, sit down and understand more background and history, I'd be more than happy to have you come in and talk it all through with you. So I think I can answer all your questions, but it won't happen in a public forum, sir.
But the question about my actual question was simply, how much are we paying? I think that's something everybody deserves to hear. I mean, we know that this is going to be an expensive fight.
This public comment is just that, it's comment. It's not an open debate or discussion. And at this point, I don't have an answer to your question off the top of my head, but it's something that we could pull together, what the forecasted values would be.
I can,
Call my office, love to sit down and talk it all through with you.
thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Miller?
George Miller, thank the township here for putting my father's picture and medal on display here. But in the past year or so, he could have really used you guys instead of going over there to the Rosies and patting him on the back all the time, making a big deal. That was fine. He could have used you when the power was out and you told us we had to leave over there at 8 o'clock and there was nowhere to go. When the transit authority here drove by the house and didn't stop, evidently nobody wanted to do anything about that. Then when there was water to be delivered, when the water main was out, and I think every 8 hours you have to have water and the pots and pans were out and they went to 12 hours or so, we asked for water. Mrs. Slavens was good enough to step to the base over there and get it delivered. We had to beg the police department to come out and do it. That's all fine and dandy, but you guys seem to be at the wrong place at the right time. Now, moving forward to the ordinance department. When you call in an ordinance complaint, I believe it states that you have to keep the property clean. Whoever owns it, occupying it, or leasing it, or renting it. You don't have to see them throw the refrigerator out in the backyard or whatever it may be and leave it there for a month. You don't have to see the person do that. The person that owns the property, your ordinance states, and I've had an attorney to look at it, states that they're supposed to keep it clean. And I'd like to know why it's not being done with some of your ordinance department. That's it. That's all I have to say. And one other question while I'm here. I'd like a copy of the roads, when you're going to start, where and exactly when it's supposed, what you're going to construction, what it contains or what you're going to do on it, when it starts, when it finishes for the year, and how much you got in it, and how much you've collected this year for it.
Thank you, George. Any additional public comment?
I like to keep things a little bit on the lighter side. My name is Mike Schultz, 44580 Dion Street. I was hoping that with the new year, with all the money that Canton's got, if we look over there on the freeway entrances, 275 and Michigan Avenue, there's milk crates now there and a lot of garbage. I was hoping between all the money that we've got for the new housing, maybe we could get those guys some easy chairs. I mean, it'd be kind of a nice gesture. That was all.
Thank you,
Oh,
sir.
one further comment. I was watching the thing on Tractor Supply. I do work for Greenfield Village. Those displays don't get made by themselves. They're done by people of the old engine club. I don't know how many people here know Lou Fisher, right over there on Sheldon Road. It used to be a greenhouse right next to DPW. Some of those displays we work on. And there was a comment made about Tractor Supply Company and how many people have tractors. I have a lot of tractors. I have a lot of tractors in Canton. I repair old tractors. One of the beauty of things is bringing something that's dead back to life. Tractor Supply sells a lot of feed, animal feed, bolts, nuts, anything you could use for anything else. I'll tell you what, you guys would have been really ahead of the curve. You got a Menards over here, but I'll be happy for the Tractor Supply. That was it. Thank you very much. You guys have a great New Year.
Good. Any additional public comment? Any additional public comment? Seeing none, call for a motion, please, Treasurer Slavens, for payment of the bills.
Mr. Supervisor, I make a motion that we pay the bills.
Second.
Those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, first item on the agenda this evening is a public hearing for consideration of a new Class C license for AK-13 Inc., located at 250 North Canton Center. Clerk Segrist, we have a motion, or would you like me to go through background first?
If you want to go through the background first, then we can open the public comment.
Before we do into motion, perfect, okay. The clerk's office has received an application for a new Class C license from Andy Tang. This would be a quota license. We have 6 available quota licenses, 4 as one is tied to PDD amendment in Uptown, Cherry Hill Village. There's a pending request for another. This business is located at 250 North Canton Center. Mr. Andy Tang, the co-owner of AK-13, is applying for Class C liquor license with an off-premise SDM, specially designed merchant license through the State of Michigan Liquor Control Commission. Mr. Tang would like to be able to sell sake for consumption off-premises to complement his carry-out business. And at this point, I guess, Mr. Tang, it would probably make sense, or your representative, to come. If you could, please share with us what's happening with your restaurant and what are you trying to achieve here?
Wayne Deering. I'm a consultant working with Andy and AKI 3. I'm from Kalamazoo, Michigan. I've had the pleasure with working with Andy in his previous operation and here. Andy was able to open up the restaurant in mid-18. We had applied earlier for a license, but the quota situation that you described was much different then. And we appreciate that staff and council has worked with us through this time. Andy went ahead and opened up the restaurant, and he had signed a lease, and he went forward with it. He made the investment. The restaurant's doing well. They're getting 5-star reviews for their food. However, as predicted, they are having some difficulty competing in the dinner market in particular, and they are having some customers who turn away because they can't have the beverage option. And also, we don't know how many people don't even come because of that option. The SDM license that you described, It does not mean he's trying to open up a little convenience store there by any means, but it is totally related to carry-out business, and so that people have that option of beer and wine. The other enhancement is with an Asian restaurant, it's nice to be able, and you mentioned sake, Asian cocktails, and other Asian beers and so on to complement their menu.
Well, I think in terms of the menu, maybe share with, because you've got the TV audience here, what are your serves? What do you serve? Because I think you are unique, right, to Canton with what you're doing. So,
Yeah, basically we do like some kitchen entree, like teriyaki stuff and some Thai food and sushi. Yeah, the main dishes. A lot of people comes in. We have the other location like probably like 5 years ago in Ypsilanti. So beginning just like here, business slow, and then when we get the liquor license and we get more better, people come back to for have some sake and fish, something like that.
I think having the sushi venue does make you very special and unique to Canton Township, so we do wish you all the success. Thank you. Is there any public comment?
We open the public hearing?
Oh, please.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to open the public hearing at 7:17 PM to consider the request for a new Class C liquor license for AK-13 Incorporated, 250 North Canton Center Road, Canton, Michigan, 48187, Canton Township, Wayne County.
Support.
Those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're now in public hearing now, formally, officially. Is there any public comment? Is there any public comment? Is there?
Not to have a quiet meeting, I will make one last.
Is there something you'd like to add?
We covered quite a bit of it. One thing I would like to add too is that in the original proposal, he had estimated that there would be 10 employees. He currently has 8, and the issuance of the license will increase that number perhaps to 12. So,
Any board comment? Yeah, please.
So I'm just SDM, I'm not familiar with this. So does that mean that you can take your open drink out, or you just have to, you can come in and buy a closed bottle of sake or wine or beer?
No. The SDM stands for Specially Designated Merchant. It allows a Class C licensee to have the ability to sell beer and wine, not liquor, to go. This has to be a sealed container to go. And in this case, he will be hooking that up with his carry-out service, not really advertising that someone would come there and buy a bottle of wine, but it would, now a customer who has dinner and enjoyed the alcoholic beverage might say, oh, you have that? Yes, and buy a bottle of that wine to go, and they could do that. A related item is in Michigan, the Class C license, if someone bought a bottle of wine for on-premise consumption and they did not finish it, then the licensee can seal that. And they have a special tool to push the cork right back and seal it, and they can then take that. But you can never leave with an open container.
And you also cannot bring liquor into the store. I know
And
some
you
restaurants
cannot
do.
bring
No,
beverages
yeah,
in.
no.
Correct.
Do you have any others like that in Canton?
So this body provided we gave local permission or local approval for a Class C liquor license that was also an SDM, Specially Designated Merchant, when we did that, I believe, a year ago for Genova Pizza.
Thank you.
Steve?
Excited to see this. I've been to the restaurant a few times. I think I was even a customer that asked for sake and couldn't get it about 4 months ago, so didn't realize we hadn't provided this before, and I'm looking forward to it. And I think the unique part of it is that they are Japanese and Thai food together, which gives more options to the customers, but my family's enjoyed the restaurant.
Yeah, so if I may, I think one of the benefits were, I have to thank Mr. Deering for bringing to our attention, is we were under the impression that the quota licenses we receive were fixed, that basically a local community is allowed one license per every 1,500 in residents, and we thought that number was fixed, and so we believed we were stuck at just 3 liquor licenses, and Mr. Deering found out for us, and we were then educated in the process that, believe it or not, once a liquor license gets put into, when it gets put into escrow, it can then revert back to the total that the township has. So that allowed us a little more flexibility. We didn't have to be as stingy with our approval process, and we could allow local businesses to expand their offerings. And so I'm grateful for that.
Seeing no additional comment, call for a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to close the public hearing at 7:21 PM to consider the request for a new Class C liquor license for AKI 3 Incorporated, 250 North Canton Center Road, Canton, Michigan, 48187, Canton Township, Wayne County.
Support.
Those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Call for a motion to approve the request for a Class C liquor license.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the request for a new Class C liquor license for AKI 3 Incorporated at 250 North Canton Center Road, Canton, Michigan, 48187, Canton Township, Wayne County.
Second?
In favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Now we are going to segue into the consent calendar with the one additional item.
Mr. Supervisor, I move that the board approve the consent calendar as presented with item C0, the resolution recognizing K-9 Officer Thor. Item C1, set public hearing for local government resolution in support of new Class C liquor license for High Velocity Sports. Item C2, authorization to pay bills when no regular board meeting is scheduled. Item C3, consider approval of the performance resolution and application for the 2019 annual MDOT maintenance permit. Items, I apologize, C4, consider approval of the resolution for 3 annual permits and authorizing the township clerk's signature for work.
Those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
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 Carries. Now into the general calendar, item G1, consider payment of City View annual software maintenance fees.
Mr. Supervisor, I move, if you'll allow me one moment, my PDF file crashed on me.
Okay. Well, here, I'm going old school on you.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to authorize the payment to Harris Computer Systems for the City View annual software maintenance fees for a total cost not to exceed $56,915.35. Funds are available in the 2019 budget in the accounts specified.
Thank you. In summary, Harris Computer Systems charges annual software maintenance ASM fees to support the continuing development and operation of City View. The $56,915.35 ASM fee covers technical support, application development, maintenance, user conference, registration, and upgrades. The cost is shared among the different MSD divisions. Each year, the new license files are issued, which allow the application to function until the specified expiration date. New license files are issued after payment of the ASM fee. The ASM cost for 2019 has been increased by $21,551, which represents a 4% increase. Are there any board questions? It's a routine thing we do about this time of year. Seeing no questions, those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
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 The motion carries. Item G2, consider approval of an agreement for lobbying services between Canton Township and Candler, Reed, Corey, and much more.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve a 2-year agreement with Candler, Reed, Corey, and much more for government lobbying services and authorize the Township Supervisor to sign on behalf of of Canton Township for an amount not to exceed $36,000 per year.
Support.
Given the political climate in the state of Michigan and the number of bills that impact local government, the need to work with a lobbying firm to be our eyes and ears in Lansing has become a necessity. Since August 2015, Canton Township has had an agreement with Candler, Reed, Corey, and much more to provide legislative support and lobbying services. That agreement expired December 31st, 2018. Myself and the corporate counsel have been highly satisfied with the service provided by KRKM and would like to enter into a new 2-year agreement beginning January 2019 and expiring December 31st, 2020. KRKM has agreed to the same compensation rate for this agreement. Are there any board questions or comments?
Just make a quick comment. I ran into our lobbyist, Stephanie Johnson, quite a few times over the last month in Lansing, and she was always really responsive and knowledgeable about what was going on and the impact that it would have on Canton Township. And she did make an offer to come and present to the board sometime soon to let us know about any legislation that passed in the last month that would affect the community and any pending legislation coming up. So I think it would be great to have her back.
Maybe in February, if that's quick enough for everybody. We'll do that. And I know Josh has had quite a bit of dealings with the firm as well. They treating you well? Okay. Any other?
I just want to ask a question. So how do we coordinate the services of this firm and our representative? I mean, are they talking a lot, or do they talk through us, or are they, I'm just wondering what the process is in Lansing.
Well, it's a couple different levels. Because of my involvement with the Conference of Western Wayne, SEMCOG, and MTA, they have bodies also doing lobbying and tracking all the bills and where they're at in those that impact the municipalities. When something is flagged to me either directly by Stephanie or by one of those other entities, I communicate directly with Stephanie and Kristen and say, you know, what does this mean to Canton Township? Does it have an impact? Should we be aware? Should we get involved or engaged? And on occasion, we have. And I think, Josh, you can speak to it from a different perspective from some of the public service agencies statewide that Canton Township's involved with, because I know Stephanie's done work for you guys as well, directly.
Yeah, we work very closely with Stephanie Johnson, her firm, through the Chiefs Associations, but also in terms of things that will impact Canton Township, such as the fireworks legislation. Also, when we're looking at, on the police department side, when we're looking at laws and how they impact the service operations in Canton Township, we'll work with her if we feel there's some changes need to be made. And one of those that she's working on with us right now is the organized retail crime laws and trying to tighten those up so that they can better serve what they were intended to do.
Then how does that work with, I mean, what would be the difference between that or going directly with Christie or, you know, the state representative, or is it supplemental, or how does that work?
Christian Kolb is extremely busy.
No, Christie Pagan, our state
okay.
rep, sorry.
I think it's in addition to. I think that probably Stephanie has relationships and Christy has relationships, so I think they both work in conjunction together.
Stephanie's able to go to all the other legislators, both in the House and Senate, and then even speak on in the committees if it's legislation that we have concerns about, to let the body know about the concerns.
The other
So.
thing is that what Stephanie Johnson has done for us quite a bit during the last year was go to specific committee meetings that our representatives wouldn't even be aware of or not on their radar. So there's a lot of different subcommittees that are occurring all the time in Lansing. If there's a hot button issue, typically you guys are made aware of it either by myself or by others, right? Christie's engaged, but Christy Pagan, Jeff Noble, and Senator Colbeck on every one of those significant issues. They're involved, they're engaged, and they're aware of our position. They may not always be supportive of our position, but they're aware of it, whereas Stephanie works on our behalf to help persuade others to see our position, even when our own legislators perhaps may not, which is very rare, but has happened in the past. So it's a deeper relationship than, hey, be aware. There's ongoing communication and debate, I guess, between the different entities and organizations in Lansing all the time.
Okay, thanks. Mhm. All right, thank you.
No other discussion on the topic. Those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. We have, that I believe concludes our formal agenda tonight. Is there any additional public comment? Is there any additional public comment? Okay, seeing no other. Josh, Wendy, any additional comments? Board comments?
Just want to wish everybody Happy New Year and
Thank you, Diane.
off to a new start. And we are going to be working on bi-monthly billing every other month, starting in May. So I will start to send out letters and have an article in the Focus, and so people are getting ready, but that'll all begin in May.
Will everybody be switched to that, or is it
Yeah.
option? Oh, okay.
Everybody. Right now, it's commercial only, and now it'll be easier, I believe, for residents knowing that their water bills are due either on an even month or odd month, and it'll be 60 days as opposed to 90. So I think the summer months are hard because we use more water, and so I think budget billing will be much easier with the bi-monthly.
Seeing no additional board comment?
May I just make one quick comment? I know it's January 8th, and we've yet to see a good, solid freeze on the roads yet, so this might be a little premature, but within a few months, you're going to see a freeze and then a thaw, and there's going to be a lot of fresh potholes out there, so I just want to take this opportunity to remind everybody that when we discussed the roads millage ahead of the election, and then as we've been talking about since the election, that the funds that are going to be raised for that roads millage are for long-term repair to the roads, long-term improvements, not for short-term maintenance. So none of that will be put into coal patch to temporarily fill those potholes. We won't be wasting your money on that. That will be going through the county. So if you see a pothole in the early parts of the spring, you'll still have to contact Wayne County to have the coal patch put into that hole.
Do you think they're going to do as good a job now as what they did before? Mr. Schultz, this is not a time for comment, but let's talk offline after the meeting, sir. All right. Seeing no other board comment at this point, call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Or
Those in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Aye.